Hello and welcome to the Basic Tax course. I am your instructor, April Gutierrez, and before you get going with Session 1, I wanted to introduce you to the course itself and what you can do as a student to succeed. I've been working in the tax preparation industry for over 18 years. And about 8 years into my working experience in the industry, I came to the conclusion that I needed to write a basic tax course because I needed quality tax preparers to come and work for me. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about who we are and how we came to be, and then we're going to move on into the things that you can do to be successful as a student as you progress through this very in-depth course. To begin, the Basic Tax course provides an in-depth introduction to individual tax law. The program was originally developed by me to provide students in the state of Oregon with access to quality tax education that would prepare them for Oregon's tax preparer examinations. These preparer examinations had a low overall pass rate, and the market on tax education was largely cornered by one large company. The combination of poor access to education and the requirement for passing a state exam made it very difficult to recruit good preparers. And I'm not the only tax professional in Oregon trying to run a business that experienced that problem. It is universal, the shortage of tax preparers over time in this state. So the program I developed was for myself, but I had a vision from the very beginning that I would always make it open access to anyone, and so the school has never been restricted only to my own staff. And as a result, as the IRS has headed into national licensing requirements and national testing requirements for preparers, I really saw an opportunity to bring the years of experience that we have with our school to a national level. Since 1973, Oregon has been the only state with mandatory education and testing requirements for preparers. So although the IRS is introducing a new exam, we're not new to testing here in our state. We've been doing it since 1973, and we know a lot about what it takes to pass tax preparer tests. The Pacific Northwest Tax School Basic Tax course does have a proven history of successfully preparing students for the preparer exams in Oregon, with over 90% of our graduates passing the test on their first attempt. This compares with the overall state average of only 65%, and that's the basic preparer test. There's a more advanced tax preparer test where the overall average pass rate statewide is only 25%. And on that test as well, our students perform much better than the state average. Now, beginning in 2011, the IRS will, for the first time, require tax preparers to pass a competency test. Your college has partnered with Pacific Northwest Tax School to bring the Basic Tax course to you. We are really pleased to share our many years of experience and hope you will enjoy the educational benefits our proven program has to bring you. The course itself utilizes materials from two sources, IRS publications and the student manual. Your reading assignment is listed at the beginning of each session's student manual. The student manual is designed to supplement and help clarify the information contained in IRS publications. Publications themselves can be difficult to read. They're actually written in pretty simple language as far as I'm concerned, but I understand that when you're first becoming accustomed to IRS speak or IRS lingo, they can be difficult to read. And so when I approached writing the Basic Tax course, I said, okay, what can I do to take that information from Pub 17 and other IRS publications and make it easier to understand? So everything you see in my manuals is derived from the IRS publications, and my goal is to pull out the key points that you need to know, augment on those where necessary, and insert illustrations where necessary. And great effort has been made on my part, as well as the support staff that I work with, to ensure that the information contained in the manual, the accompanying classwork assignments, homework assignments, and quizzes is correct. But if you believe there is a contradiction between the material contained in the manual and information contained in IRS forms and publications, please notify me or other staff within our firm by utilizing the Q&A forum inside our LMS. We will make every effort to help you understand the material and to clarify the content of the course. And sometimes it simply is the case that our manual or our instructions in our course are wrong. So if you think there's an error, it's possible that there is one. It also may be the case that there's no error at all and you're simply confused. Either way, we want to hear from you because our job is to help you learn, and our job is also to give you accurate information. Course objective. The Basic Tax course has been designed to help you learn the basic fundamentals of income tax preparation needed to pass the National Preparer Competency Exam. Your college may have allowed you the option to purchase Level 1 and Level 2 of the course separately, or you may have enrolled in both levels simultaneously. Level 1 of the course should be completed over a 6-week period with the following content. There are 12 federal tax law sessions, as well as one additional session that is devoted to the Level 1 final exam. The final exam is actually 2 parts. There is an open book portion to the exam, which involves preparation of a detailed tax return, and there is a closed book equivalent portion to the exam, which involves taking a test that includes multiple choice and true-false questions. When you have finished with Level 1 or Part 1 of the course, you move on to Level 2. And Level 2 of this course includes the following additional content, which should be taken and completed over an additional 4-week period. There will be 8 federal tax law sessions and 1 more session devoted to the Level 2 final exam, and it also is a 2-part test, the first part being completion of a multi-step detailed tax return, and the second portion of the exam being devoted to a true-false multiple choice test that you will take online inside our learning management system. Now, if you are an Oregon or California student, there are extra rules that apply to you simply because the states of Oregon and California both impose additional licensing and education regulations upon tax preparers who work in those states. So Oregon and California students are governed by state education requirements, and if you are an Oregon or a California student, you must complete all 20 federal sessions that are contained in Levels 1 and 2, plus you will receive an additional 5 sessions of state tax law, which should be completed over an additional 3-week period. Federal-only students, to successfully complete Level 1, you must complete 12 federal tax law sessions and achieve an average passing score of 70% or higher on the Level 1 final exams. To successfully complete Level 2, you must complete an additional 8 sessions and pass the Level 2 final exams. Upon successful completion of both Level 1 and Level 2 of this course, the school will issue you a certificate of completion for the 72-hour basic tax course in federal law. Now, if you are a California student, then you are governed by CTEC, and that means you do have to complete 25 sessions, 20 federal plus 5 California, and achieve an average passing score of 70% or higher on the midterm and final exams. Upon successful completion of this course, the school will issue you a certificate of completion for the CTEC 87-hour basic tax course in federal and California law. In accordance with CTEC qualifying education requirements, we will also notify CTEC that you have successfully completed 45 hours of federal and 15 hours of California qualifying education, which will allow you to register as a CTEC registered tax preparer after you obtain the required California bond. Now, you may be wondering why you'll get a certificate for 60 hours when we are actually completing 87 hours. And the reason for that is that the minimum California requirement is 60 hours, and we simply far exceed that. So you'll be getting an additional 27 hours of education, but California only requires 60, and when you come to us, you get the very best. Coming over to Oregon students, if you are an Oregon student, you must complete 25 sessions, including 20 federal plus 5 Oregon, of this course and achieve an average passing score of 70% or higher on proctored midterm and final exams. Upon successful completion of this course, the school will issue you a certificate of completion for the 80-hour basic tax course in federal and Oregon law, which is required under Oregon tax preparer licensing laws. I should point out that there is a notation right here that says Oregon students must take a proctored midterm and proctored final exam. That rule applies only to Oregon students, and that is because it is a requirement of the Oregon Board of Tax Practitioners. If you are a student in any other state, you will be able to take all of your tests online. Now, how do you benefit most from this course? Each session of the course contains numerous tools that have been designed to offer you a variety of ways to understand and learn from the topics covered. We respect the uniqueness of each student and understand that different people learn in different ways. What works for one student may not work for another, and vice versa. So by dividing each session into multiple components, we hope to provide you with a learning tool that fits your learning style. Now, having said that, the more ways you get something thrown at you, the more likely it is that something will stick. And when it comes to tax law, it all has to stick. There's no excuse for being a tax preparer who doesn't know what he's doing, or what you're doing if you're a girl. You need to know what you're doing. And really, you just have to learn it and study it every which way we throw it at you until it all sticks. Now, having said that, many students still approach tax law with the attitude that taxes and tax forms are easy. However, the most experienced and seasoned tax professionals know that taxes are not simple or easy. In fact, I have a woman we've been in communication with. She owns a tax service in a city here in Oregon, and she's enrolling 5 different people in her course simultaneously. And she made the comment today, just over the telephone, that every tax preparer should take a basic tax course like ours, start to finish, at least once every 3 years. Because it is the constant repetition and the drilling in that gets you the affinity and the expertise that you need to be good at this job. There is simply too much to know to remember it all, and I can assure you that when I took a couple of years off from teaching, I started to go rusty. So as much as I know, I have to stay on top of it all the time to be on the top of my profession. And I know this because I work at it full time and have done so for the last 18 years. So moving on with this line of reasoning, tax law is simply far too complex for one individual to master in all areas. Therefore, we encourage you to approach this course with a disciplined and focused work ethic. You must complete every classwork assignment and every homework assignment. You must complete every session, take every quiz, and complete all reading assignments. Our most successful students consistently do that. In general, we believe you will gain the most from this course if you allow an appropriate amount of time to complete each component. The recommended time allotments per session are as follows. The student manual and IRS publication reading assignments, you need to allow 2 to 4 hours per session just to read our manual and just to read the IRS publications. And some students need more than that. That's just if you're pretty good at it. Student classwork assignment? Well, during each lecture video, I'm going to tell you it's time to push pause and do the classwork assignment. And you might finish that assignment in 20 minutes, but the likelihood is, in order for you to do it really well and think through it and really spend the appropriate amount of time on it, it should be closer to an hour, and sometimes more. And when you're finished preparing the classwork assignment, then it's going to be time to return to the lecture video where I will review that assignment with you. And then you can be figuring out what you did right and what you did wrong and the reasons for each. Then there's the homework assignment, and that is something that you need to work on independently outside of the time provided in the lecture. You'll work on the homework assignment and do the best job you can of preparing an accurate tax return based on the tax scenario we're giving you. That could take you anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, depending on how good you are at it. And finally, there is the quiz review. During each lecture, I'm going to give you a quiz, and later on we'll do a review of the quiz answer key. After the lecture is over, you should print that answer key, or at least open it up on your computer and spend some time looking at it and really studying each and every question and why the answers are what they are, and maybe doing further reading in the IRS publications so that you really begin to understand why you got a question right or why you got it wrong. IRS exam preparation. If you are taking this course because you plan to sit for the IRS competency test, and nearly everyone will need to unless you're a CPA or an enrolled agent, we recommend that you allow a minimum of 8 to 12 hours each week to complete the reading and homework assignments. Students who devote the recommended study time outside of class generally find their experience of attending our school to be highly satisfying, and they are able to pass the government-administered exams with higher scores than those who limit at-home study to less than 8 hours per week. Now, I won't say we're perfect. We certainly have students that come to us when they're finished the course and even during the course who complain about it. They think we're giving them too much work or that we're too hard. Well, tax preparation is a field that demands professional levels of knowledge, experience, and diligence. So we don't apologize for making you work hard, because the consequence of hard work is that you're going to learn material that is well delivered. You're going to be able to pass a federal exam or the Oregon exam if you're also sitting that, and you're going to enter the workplace as a professional tax preparer who really has a good understanding of what it is it takes to do tax returns accurately. Now, time will be allowed during each session for study and completion of classwork assignments. We recommend you review the current session's classwork assignment and have required forms ready to use prior to beginning each session. So what happens is, inside the Learning Management System, there's a tab where you can go and print tax forms. And inside the tab, you will be given the forms that you should have ready for that day's lecture. So go to the Forms and Publications tab, look at the list of the forms and publications required for that particular session, print the forms that you'll need, and have them ready to go so that when we come to the classwork assignment, you're ready to fill those forms out. This course will teach you about tax laws for the 2010 tax year. The IRS has not yet established a timeline for the Tax Preparer Competency Test. However, we do know that it will start in the fall, probably October of 2011, and it will cover 2010 tax law. Since 2011 laws are still not finalized, I mean, Congress could change them at any time before the end of the year, we will make no effort to cover 2011 tax law changes. In fact, at this point, IRS is still even creating 2011 forms. I couldn't even show them to you because most of them aren't done. And a separate 2011 tax law update will be offered beginning in January of 2011. So I will finish teaching this basic tax course in the fall of 2011, and then I will move on to preparing an update class, and I will teach that update class in January of 2011. That class will be recorded and will be available as a self-paced online course. Let's take a look at our session lesson plan guide. Each class session is divided into 6 components. There is the reading assignment, there is the lecture, such as the one you're listening to now, there's the classwork assignment, the homework assignment, the quiz, as well as a quiz review. And for that matter, there is also a classwork review and a homework review. The layout of each component is as follows. For the reading assignment, depending on your individual preferences and time schedule, you may choose to complete these reading assignments prior to watching the corresponding lecture, or you can wait until after you are finished watching the lecture. The important part is that you complete all of the reading assignments. Now, you may find that if you read the material ahead of time, your head's just a jumble with information and it doesn't make sense, and that when you watch the lecture afterward, it pulls it all together. Or it could be that after watching the lecture, you're feeling, oh, that was a lot of information. I don't know how much of that absorbed, so now it's time to go and read about it more. Every person works differently, and you'll figure out what works best for you, either reading before the lecture or reading after the lecture, or maybe both. Then there's the lecture itself, and all sessions of our basic tax course include a lecture video. The purpose of the lecture video is to review the material contained in the reading assignments and to provide opportunities for your instructor, that's me, to illustrate and explain the important aspects of each topic in greater detail. Classwork assignment. Ideally, you should review your classwork assignment prior to attending class. The purpose of each classwork assignment is to familiarize you with the relevant tax forms and instructions and how to teach you how to apply tax law to correctly completing the appropriate tax form. Because that's what tax preparation is all about, right? You're out there making a living preparing people's tax returns. I don't think you can get enough practice filling out tax returns. So that's why we'll do lots of it in our course. And while you will be given time during each class to work on classwork, you will benefit most from this time if you take the time to review each assignment prior to beginning class. Now, in preparing for class, you should review the classwork assignment in your manual. Make notes of any key points or questions you have after reading the assignment. Print and analyze the appropriate tax forms that are a part of the classwork assignment, and then consider how you will approach completion of the assignment by thinking about what the income and expense items are and how they might apply to preparation of a particular form. Do not, however, attempt to complete the assignment prior to class, as I will tell you during the lecture video when it is time to do that assignment. And when I tell you it's time, push pause on the lecture video, go ahead and take as much time as you need to complete that assignment, and then when you're ready, go back and resume playback of the video. And I will review that assignment with you. Next in line is the homework assignment. At the end of each lecture, I'm going to go over the homework assignment with you. I'm going to tell you what's involved with it and send you on your way. And you should devote as much time to completing the homework assignment for that session as is necessary. We recommend you complete your homework assignment by hand and on paper tax forms. Now, you may have access to computerized software and feel you'd prefer to do it there. And I'm not going to stop you from doing it there, but you won't learn as much if you use computerized software. After completing your homework assignment, you must enter your answers into the LMS, and the LMS will grade you and tell you your score. Now, of course, you could cheat and watch the review and get all the correct answers and then enter those correct answers and get a perfect score, but you won't learn as much if you do it that way. It's far better for you to do the best job you can of preparing that homework assignment and then entering it into the LMS cold. Let the LMS grade you and see how you did. Once you know your score, then you can start on the next session, and that session will give you a review of the answer key so you can see what you did right and what you did wrong with no cheating involved. Because when you cheat in this course, you only cheat yourself. You don't cheat me. Okay, completion and submission of all homework assignments is required of all students as a condition of successful completion of the course. So not only am I telling you that you need to do your homework assignment and enter the answers into the LMS for your own learning benefit, you actually will not be able to finish this course or pass this course without doing so. Next is the quiz. Now, of course, the real world of tax preparation involves preparing tax returns. But IRS exams and Oregon State exam involve taking tests, and the tests involve true, false, and multiple choice questions. And so we want to make sure that you enter those exam sites ready for those tests. So every single session of our course comes with a quiz. And after we finish review of the homework answer key from the previous session, you will be given a closed book quiz. Online students should pause video playback and then complete the quiz when instructed to do so during the lecture video. There are two ways to complete your quiz. The first is to print a paper copy of the quiz and mark your answers on the paper copy. When you are finished, go to the LMS and then enter your answers. The second way is to read and enter your answers into the LMS directly without printing a paper copy of the quiz ahead of time. Well, the IRS exam site is going to be an electronic test. You're going to stand or sit at a computer terminal and take your test electronically. There won't be anything on paper. So for the federal test, I would say that taking our tests cold online inside our LMS would be very, very good practice for you. Now, Oregon students are actually given their tests on paper, and they sit at tables and circle answers. So at the Oregon level, we still have paper tests, but at the federal level, at a national level, we're going to have 300 to 500,000 people taking computerized tests online, and for that reason, I really do recommend that you take tests inside the LMS directly just for that practice, so you get good at taking those tests on a computer. Now, having said that, some students find it more difficult to take a computerized test, and others may not want to devote resources to printing a paper copy unnecessarily. So we want to be flexible for you and help you in your learning process, and you may decide you want to take the test electronically, and then you still want to take the test on paper or print a paper copy for sitting on the sofa and reading in your leisure study time. Now, the purpose of the quiz itself is to offer an opportunity for you to review session material in an environment similar to what you will experience at the federal and Oregon exam sites. We will have a review of each and every quiz. Just for time constraints, I do not review every single quiz question. Rather, instead, I pick out the quiz questions that seem to have been overall the most problematic for students, and each and every year I can pretty much predict which questions are going to give students problems. And sometimes students have problems with a question simply because they didn't read the question, and other times it's because, well, they don't know. They don't know the law, they don't know the answer to the question, and they're just randomly guessing, and sometimes they get lucky and sometimes they don't. So your quiz score is a good way to gauge your progress throughout the course. In general, some quizzes are more difficult than others, and average quiz scores vary from a low of 50% to a high of 70%. And within that range, we have students who score as low as 25% on a quiz, and some who might get close to 100% on a quiz. But in general, you should be shooting for a score of 70% or higher on each and every quiz the first time you take it cold. And if you take a quiz for the first time cold and you score less than 70%, that's the equivalent of a fail. And that means that you weren't ready to take that quiz, that you should have put more time into studying before you attempted to take that quiz. Now, that doesn't mean that you're in trouble because you failed that quiz. some students do really poorly on some quizzes and do really well on others, and it will all average out. But in general, if you consistently see you're getting the same types of scores over and over again on quizzes, and those scores are low, it means you're really progressing to the course either too quickly or too slowly. Now, the course itself should be taken over a 10-week period if you are a federal-only student, and over a 13-week period if you are an Oregon or California student. And that sets you on a line or a baseline of taking 2 sessions on average per week. Now, some students just can't fit 2 sessions a week into their schedule, so they take longer. And some students are available to work on the course full-time, no other commitments to their time, and they might blaze through it in 6 weeks. But the ideal length of time to take this course is 12 to 13 weeks for California and Oregon students and 10 weeks for federal. That gives you enough time to really focus on the material and retain it as you go. You're not spending so long on it that you're forgetting material from earlier sessions, and you're not rushing through it so quickly that you're forgetting everything as you go. So the quizzes really are going to be telling you how well you're doing. And the quizzes themselves do not count for course overall score. Your pass or fail is not based on how well you do on your average quiz. Your pass or fail for the course is based on how well you perform on the final exams and the midterm exams. To pass the course, you need to have a combined average overall score of 70% or higher on the midterm and final exams for this course. And if you score less than that, you will fail the course. The quizzes themselves tell you how well you're doing, and you should not attempt to take the midterm or final exams until you are really in line with where you need to be, and you can tell where you're at through taking the quizzes. Now, the lesson plan of my course does sometimes confuse people, and I'll give you a little bit of a background about how I came up with the lesson plan for each course. I actually attended, way back 10 years ago when I first created the course, I attended a lecture about how to be a good instructor and also about the mind of the student and how people learn. And the woman who gave that lecture gave a very interesting statistic, and what she said is that people only hear about a third of what you say. And so I translated that out and said, oh, that means if you say something 3 times, someone might hear it once. And how many times do you have to hear something before you actually remember it? So at the very least, I thought I need to hit on every single topic of my course at least on 3 different days or more. And so I arranged the course to have a pattern where every topic is touched on 3 separate sessions and is reviewed continuously throughout the course. So each session of the course builds on the prior session. You should not try jumping ahead. But it also means that the layout of each session can be a little bit hard to predict until you're really into the swing of things. So this lesson plan outline that I'm giving you here is just to help you kind of arrange in your mind what will happen in what order and why. So following our illustrations for lesson plans for sessions 1, 2, and 3 of the course, the pattern for each class is the same with some exceptions. There's always exceptions, right? So time allowed, lesson 1. We're going to begin session 1 of the Basic Tax course with a lecture. You should take breaks whenever you need to, and if the sound of my voice is wearing on you and you're not hearing what I'm saying anymore, that means it's time for a break. When you're finished with your break, resume video playback. Now, at some point during each session, I'm going to tell you it's time to do your classwork. And at that point, push pause and complete the classwork assignment. When you're finished completing the classwork assignment, resume video playback for a review of the classwork answer key. And then the lecture will end. I will spend about 5 minutes at the very end of the lecture just explaining the homework assignment to you and what you need to do, and then I'll send you on your way. The lecture will be over. At that point, you should finish doing the homework assignment independently, fill out all the tax forms by hand, and then go enter your answers into the LMS and see how you score. If you need to, complete more reading assignments, spend additional time reading. And that would be the end of session 1. Next time you're ready to move on with the course, you would return and begin taking session 2. Session 2 will begin with a review of the session 1 homework answer key. Because remember, session 1 ended with me telling you to do your homework? Well, when you come back to next class, you're going to want to see how you did, and that's where we're going to start. So we'll start session 2 with a review of the session 1 homework answer key. We will then pause video playback so that you can take the session 1 quiz. And when you have finished taking the Session 1 quiz inside of the LMS, it will be time to take the Session 2 lecture. So at that point, you'll resume video playback of the Session 2 lecture and take breaks, obviously, as you need during that lecture period. We will then have about a 20-minute period where I'm going to want you to be working on your classwork. Now, I say 20 minutes loosely because it could take you an hour to do your classwork. It's really up to you and how fast you work. But after you have finished doing your classwork assignment, it's time to resume video playback, and I will review the classwork assignment for Session 2 with you. And then it's time to do the homework assignment. I'll finish off Session 2 with a review or an explanation of what you need to do in preparing the homework assignment for Session 2. It will then be your job to complete the Session 2 homework assignment, enter your answers into the LMS, and then complete your homework reading assignment. After that, it's time to return for Session 3. And we will begin Session 3 with a review of the Session 1 answer key. So that means we had the Session 1 lecture. We did Session 1 homework. In Session 2, I did a review of the Session 1 homework answer key, and I asked you to complete the Session 1 quiz. And now we're into Session 3, and we're still talking about Session 1 because we're going to be reviewing the Session 1 quiz answer key at the beginning of Session 3. After we've done that, we'll move on to a review of the Session 2 homework answer key, and then I will ask you to pause video playback and go into the LMS and take the Session 2 quiz. When you have finished taking the Session 2 quiz inside Session 3 of the LMS, then it will be time to move on with the Session 3 lecture. Resume video playback at that point and watch me give you the Session 3 lecture. Take breaks as you need, and when ready, it will be time to do the classwork assignment for Session 3. When I tell you to, push pause, complete the Session 3 classwork assignment, and when you are done, resume playback for a review of the Session 3 classwork answer key. After that, it's time to do your homework assignment and your reading assignment and so on. And of course, at the beginning of Session 4, we will review the Session 2 quiz answer key, we will review the Session 3 homework answer key, and then you will take the Session 3 quiz inside Session 4. Now, every single homework, classwork, and quiz assignment that I give you has a corresponding answer key. These answer keys are very detailed. They include line explanations of how we calculated numbers for each line. They include references to IRIS publications so you know why and a particular answer is the correct answer and how we calculated it. But to ensure that the students that we have actually attend class by watching the lecture video recordings, proceeding through the course, completing all appropriate assignments, we have password protected all course answer keys. The passwords to answer keys are provided in each lecture video, and you must watch the lecture video recording to obtain the passwords. Please do not call or email the school to request the passwords. We will not give them to you. Now, when you think about the quiz, the Session 1 quiz is taken in Session 2, but we will not review the Session 1 quiz till we get to Session 3. So Session 3 is where I will give you the password to unlock the Session 1 quiz answer key. We want you to work in a particular methodology. We do not want you skipping through content. So please just patiently listen to us and do the course the way we tell you. Now, speaking of the LMS, how do you make the most of it? Well, you should follow the lesson plan for each session of the course. And the OWL inside the LMS is there to provide you with instructions. And with all things in life, if you slow down and read the instructions, you'll have an easier time of it. So please do refer to the OWL on each page and follow the instructions that appear next to the OWL. They're not that wordy, and they do save you time if you read them. Also, deviating from the lesson plan that we are giving you for each session is going to cause confusion, needless confusion, and it will not speed up the learning process. In fact, students who deviate from the lesson plan slow down the learning process. There's simply no fast, quick, easy shortcut to learning tax law. You have to learn it, and you have to do it by rigorous repetition over and over and over again. And over the years, I've had many students come to me and say, April, isn't there a shortcut to learning? Isn't there a faster way to get this material? How do I speed it all up so that I can learn all of this faster? And my answer is no, and not possible. You simply can't do it faster than it takes you to do these steps. So please listen to me on this regard. I know tax law well. I've been teaching it for many, many years. We've succeeded in getting people through this course and through exams with high pass rates because we really do have a system that works, and we simply ask you to follow it. Now let's move on to the next item of the day, which is the Q&A forum. Now inside each session of this course, there is a Q&A forum. The Q&A forum is a valuable tool which allows you to communicate with your instructor, generally me, but I do have support staff who also assist, and your fellow students. We ask you to make use of the Q&A forum inside each session in the following ways. Firstly, the student manual. As hard as we try, we've never made it perfect the first time out, and we frequently make revisions. Now, sometimes the revisions are because we find an error. Sometimes it's just something spaced funny and it looked odd and I wanted to correct the spacing. And sometimes it's because I decide I just want to improve on the manual. I want to add some additional content for clarity. Maybe there's been an issue with a student or more, I'm not understanding it, and I feel I need to adjust that. So when you arrive at the beginning of each session, I do recommend you go to the Q&A forum and look for manual revisions. If there are no revisions that in other words, you've printed the most recent version, you're good to go. But if you see that the version of the manual you've printed is not the most current version, you'd want to go back to the LMS and print the pages that have changed. Posting questions and receiving answers is the next reason you go to the Q&A forum. You use the Q&A forum to post questions and receive answers about topics covered in this course. Now, it has been our experience that while most students use the Q&A forum sensibly, some students use the forum to try and shortcut around completing all assignments and reading all answer keys. We therefore ask you observe the following procedures before you post a question into the forum. Firstly, please watch all lecture videos contained under the Lecture Video tab for that session. Review all course answer keys under the Answer Keys tab for that session. Review other questions inside the appropriate session's forum to see if your question has already been answered. Use the search box at the bottom of the Q&A forum page to search for your topic. If your question relates to a topic contained in the student manual or an IRIS publication, please identify the question you have by referring to the specific page number and paragraph heading of the course manual or IRIS publication you are reading, and then describe what information contained in the manual or the publication is confusing you. So for example, if you just say, I don't understand, Pub 17 says blank. Well, really? What page did it say blank? I'm not going to read the whole publication to try and figure out where your question came from. So please be very, very specific so that if you're telling me you have a question about a particular topic on a certain page of the IRIS publication 17, that I can easily flip to that page, read the paragraph that's confusing you, and post a reply to your question. 5. If your question relates to a quiz, classwork, or homework assignment, identify the specific assignment and question number that you have a question about. Please also identify why the test answer key does not answer your question or is leaving you confused. And that, of course, entails that you will have read the answer key before you post a question. So, now remember I told you that we're going to take the Session 1 quiz inside Session 2? But we're not going to review the Session 1 quiz till we get to Session 3. Well, Session 3 is where I'm going to give you the password to unlock the Session 1 quiz answer key. So in Session 3, during the lecture, I'm going to review the answer key with you, and I'm also going to give you a password to unlock that answer key. After you've opened the answer key and read it in full, if you're still confused, by all means post a question. But please do not post a question that you have that is already answered in the answer key, and the only reason you're posting it is because you haven't read it yet. That just takes up my time needlessly, and it takes me away from really addressing true needs of other students who have legitimate questions that are not already posted in answer keys. Now, you should also please keep your answers short and to the point. Please do not post questions that are not directly related to the content of the session, and also do not use the forum to get tax advice. As you might imagine, I have a lot of students that I'm working with at any one time, and if every student I work with posts paragraph-long or page-long questions, I wouldn't be able to get through them all. So questions do need to be short and on topic. If they are, I can read them quickly, I can research the answer, and post an answer in short time. If you post a very long, wordy question and I'm busy and I don't have time for it, I may not get to it for a few days, or maybe never. So the best way to get me to answer a question is to stay on topic and keep it short. And as for tax advice, well, this is a tax course. It's designed to teach you tax law, but it is not designed to give you tax advice, nor is it designed to help you prepare tax returns for a specific client. We simply do not want to engage in any kind of legal responsibility for you acting on advice that we may have given you. We're simply a tax school providing education necessary and as accurately as we possibly can. But no, we're not giving legal advice or tax advice in that capacity. Finally, what many of you may be asking is what topics will be included in the IRS Tax Preparer Test? Well, the IRS did just this past week, that is in early September, release the information about what they expect to include in their test. The IRS has stated that the test will contain approximately 120 questions in a combination of multiple choice and true-false format. The questions will be weighted, and individuals will receive a pass or fail score with diagnostic feedback provided to those who fail. Test vendor Prometric Inc. has worked with the IRS and the tax preparer community to develop the test. The time limit for the test is expected to be between 2 and 3 hours. The test must be taken at one of roughly 260 Prometric facilities nationwide. The IRS has provided the following list of recommended study materials. This list is not all-encompassing, but is a highlight of what test candidates will need to know. So isn't that nice of IRS? The IRS has said that these are the publications you should read and reference when you're preparing to take the test, but it's not all-encompassing. In other words, they could still pull test questions from other sources, is what they're saying. And for that reason, we also, as a school, recommend these other publications as source or reference items that you really should have on hand and should have read prior to sitting that test. In particular, I want to draw your attention to Publication 946 on how to depreciate property. In Level 2 of our basic tax course, we will spend an entire session talking about depreciation. Depreciation is a confusing topic for many people, and I do the very best job I can of explaining it to you. But there's no way around really reading Publication 946. It's an excellent publication, and it happens to be one of my favorites. And of course, we have Pub 17 itself, which is the IRS's Bible on tax return preparation. You could call it that, or at least I call it that. It's this publication right here. And this publication has roughly 300 pages in it, and it covers a very large range of individual tax law subjects, but it is not complete. And IRS is still saying you need to go on and read other publications as well. In particular, Circular 230, that has to do with regulations governing practice before the Internal Revenue Service. That is the ethics rules and the laws that you operate under as a tax preparer. You need to know what those are. And we do teach ethics in Level 2 of our tax course. Also, Publication 334 is the Tax Guide for Small Business. That's where you learn about how to claim deductions for expenses, travel, meal, entertainment, a whole bunch of other rules applying to business income and expenses as well. Publication 970 is Tax Benefits for Education. IRS also intends to test on the e-file rules that tax preparers have to abide by. So electronic filing is essentially the way all paid preparers are required to file tax returns, essentially beginning in 2012, and so you need to know those rules and you will be tested on them. IRS has also said that it will test on the alternative minimum tax, so we do include information in our course on AMT, but in particular, IRS wants you to read the instructions for Form 6251. And then, of course, the additional reading assignments we tell you to have handy to reference are Publication 225, the Farmer's Tax Guide, Publication 521, Moving Expenses, and Publication 527, which has to do with residential rental property. Now, you can have all of these IRS publications mailed to you free of charge via U.S. mail. So let me just show you briefly how to do that. And here I am on the IRS website. To order free forms, you simply click on the link, Forms and Publications. You then go down to Forms and Publications by U.S. Mail. You type the name of the form or publication you're interested in. So, for example, let's just type in Publication 334, which is the Small Business Handbook. You check on the box to add it to your cart, and you can continue adding items to your cart. Or you can go to checkout, and of course at checkout you enter your personal information and the IRS will mail these documents to you. It only takes about 10 days for them to arrive in the mail, and I do strongly recommend you order every single publication I've just shown you on that reading list. And that concludes this introduction to the basic tax course. I will continue to give you instructions on what to do as we progress through each session of the course, so please do watch each session in its entirety so that you get all of the necessary instructions, especially the passwords. You need the passwords for two reasons. One is to unlock answer keys, and the other is to take the password test, which will prove that you actually watched the video for each session. And with that, I wish you the very best of success with this tax course and in your career as a tax professional. Thank you for enrolling with our school, and let the course begin. Bye-bye.